Excellent. I'm talking to you today about changing behaviour together, the education strategy for Waste Less, Recycle More. As you are probably aware, Waste Less, Recycle More is nearly $500 million investment of the New South Wales Government to change the way waste is recycled, waste is managed and recycled in New South Wales. So we have 3 pillars to Waste Less, Recycle More, and Steve Beeman outlined this morning. So behaviour and attitudinal change, recycling infrastructure, and strong compliance and enforcement. I'm going to just start with a few minutes of the vision for Waste Less, Recycle More, because this strategy aims to integrate education into all of the programs that we do. Okay, so I'll just run through a few slides and then I'll hand you over to Janet Sparrow and she'll get into a bit of the detail of the strategy and the actions that the EPA and our partners will be undertaking. Okay. Waste Less, Recycle More aims to increase recycling across households, at home and away from home. We want to be able to show, the EPA wants to be able to showcase the great work that councils are doing and provide information on the best types of recycling systems, because we want best practice systems introduced, we want consistent materials in the recycling streams, and we want an education campaign for recycling for New South Wales, and that's a commitment in the strategy. Okay, and when people are recycling well at home, we hope that they're recycling well at work. Bin Trim is a program which uses consistent messages and builds the capacity of businesses to recycle more by providing face-to-face support. Okay, and then organics. Nearly half of the waste stream going to landfill in New South Wales is organic. So Waste Less, Recycle More includes infrastructure, but obviously we need to ensure that the householders know what to put in the bins. So the EPA is supporting increased recovery of organics through infrastructure, collection systems, as well as education. So councils that receive grants for new collection systems also receive funding for education. Okay, recycling infrastructure is one of the 3 major themes of Waste Less, Recycle More. But of course the community needs to know how to use the systems. There needs to be enough recycling infrastructure capacity as well as a modern waste and recycling industry in the state. Market development and product stewardship are also key areas under Waste Less, Recycle More. As is the management of household problem wastes. Waste Less, Recycle More aims to have a network of community recycling centres across the state, as well as consistent education materials, consistent signage and messages, so that householders know how to use the system, where the centres are, etc. And then there's litter and illegal dumping. We want we want the community to understand that littering is not acceptable and illegal dumping is not acceptable, and we want to be the less littered state in the country. Okay. Many of you will be aware of Love Food, Hate Waste and the concept of avoiding waste generally. Love Food, Hate Waste is a program that originated in the United Kingdom, but we have rolled this out in New South Wales with the support of councils, with consistent messages and information to help build the capacity of councils to deliver this in their communities. Okay, and one of the main areas that I work in is working with councils to collaborate on a regional basis, developing regional strategies, supporting regional initiatives. And if you speak to the councils from regional areas and from all of the voluntary regional waste groups and the ROCs, you'll see that they are really supporting the EPA to deliver these programs. They're helping prepare grant applications, they're helping to roll out regional education programs as well. Okay, I just wanted to show you overall the complexity and the range of programs under Waste Less, Recycle More, because as we developed this strategy, it was clear that we needed to look at everything that was already being done, and there was so much that was being done in education across all of these programs. And then we needed to look at the gaps, and we needed to look at the future and what else needed to be done to build a robust strategy for New South Wales. So thanks. I'll hand you over to Janet Sparrow.
Okay, Danielle got all the pictures. I'll try and keep this preppy because I've got a few tables. So I'll run through this quickly, but we're available at the EPA conference stall should you have any questions, and we do have a few copies of the strategy if you'd like more detail. So in terms of why we did this strategy, the foremost reason is so that we can align what we're doing in waste education across Waste Less, Recycle More, and so that we can get a good look at all the programs that we're doing and where it's appropriate and where there are opportunities for education to improve existing programs, to inject education initiatives into those to support them to achieve what they're trying to achieve. We want to make it clear, both internally and externally to our partners and stakeholders, what it is that we're trying to do in this space for Waste Less, Recycle More, and in turn what we expect of our partners and stakeholders, so our grantees working on particular programs, the sorts of things that we will be encouraging you to take up. We wanted also to provide a framework to evaluate what we're doing in education across all of Waste Less, Recycle More. So each program area has an evaluation plan, but we wanted to sort of draw out from that and look across what we're doing as a whole in education. What have we achieved as a result of Waste Less, Recycle More? There will come a time within the next 2 years when we'll be wanting to see how far we've come for Waste Less, Recycle More and build a case for the future beyond Waste Less, Recycle More. And if we can actually demonstrate what we've achieved collectively in education, that will really support our claim for continued investment. And ultimately, we are all about working towards the waste avoidance and resource recovery targets. So we've taken a really broad view of what education means, and this is reflected in the strategy, which contains all sorts of initiatives. So many of you will be familiar with a number of these sort of education examples. And the strategy includes actions that relate to each of these examples and that support people doing things like signage and posters, to workshops, to formal training, a variety of things. Print and TV advertising is another. So we've taken a very broad view. We haven't excluded any of these things. So I'll quickly run through how we've developed the strategy. There's been an internal EPA steering group, which has representation from each of the program areas across the waste branch. The EPA also put together an external reference group, a local government education reference group, towards the end of last year. And this group has 14 members from across New South Wales, representing both the levy-paying area and the non-levy-paying area. And the individuals that make up this group have significant experience and expertise in education in local government. We wanted to make sure that in the development of our strategy, it actually reflected the on-the-ground work that local councils are doing. Essentially, we wanted to keep the strategy real. We engaged an external contractor to actually go through the process of developing the strategy for the EPA. They didn't have free rein. We had a number of existing strategies already in place, a number of existing commitments. We'd undertaken social research, so all of those things were reviewed. We'd also done some social research about a year ago, the Household Programs Benchmark Study. That was a New South Wales-wide survey that was done to get a snapshot of the community's where the community was at in terms of their knowledge, skills, attitudes and behaviours across many of the Waste Less, Recycle More program areas. So the findings from that study were also used to inform the strategy. And the regional delivery team also commissioned a needs assessment towards the end of last year, looking at the needs of local councils across the state. And so there were some very clear findings from that in how the EPA can support councils in education and in other areas. And at the moment, we're in the public consultation phase on the strategy. So in terms of the strategy, what's in it? We've got the big picture, the vision and the principles by which we see education can achieve great things. It's got what we will do, our actions and our strategic directions. It's got an evaluation plan so that you can all check back with us to make sure that we're evaluating things how we said we would. And it does have some appendices, some reference documents at the end, so a bit more theory about education as a tool in the policy toolbox, a bit of background to some of the principles that underpin waste education or best practice waste education as we see it, and also an appendix dedicated to regional waste education initiatives across the state. So we really recognise the importance of regional collaboration and the work that's already going on around New South Wales. And the bit most people are interested in is what we're going to do. What are we actually doing in this space? So that's where I'm going to focus the rest of this presentation. We have 56 actions in the education strategy, and I definitely don't have time to run through all of those. The actions fall into 6 strategic directions, so I'm just going to give you a couple of examples from each of those directions. So number 1, developing and using consistent messaging. There's lots of gains that can be made by having consistent messaging. It does mean that we can complement the work that's happening at a local level with that of what's happening at a regional level, with that of what's happening at a state level. We can really build on the work that we're doing together. So one of the actions, as Danyelle mentioned, the EPA has committed to doing a recycling education campaign. This is something that came out of the Waste Levy review, and a lot of councils are really supportive of the EPA putting out some standardised recycling messages. And another example that many of you may have already worked on is the Hay Tosser campaign that the litter team has been coordinating. So that program has consistent messaging across the state. There are consistent images, but the team has also worked with local councils and regional groups so that those images can be tailored to reflect the local community that they're going to be used in. We also want to integrate education into areas that education may not already be happening. So education is really great at supporting initiatives in achieving what they're setting out to do. Ultimately, everything we're doing will involve people at some stage of the process. So in my view, education can be a great supporter. So the compliance team has recognised that education is important for the work that they do, and they're committing to continue the work that they have been doing with environmental regulators to provide them with training in illegal dumping prevention and cleanup. And the problem waste team have been working with local councils and regional groups to support their infrastructure, their new infrastructure in the way of community recycling centres and the services that they provide through the household chemical clean-out. So supporting those councils in particular in the delivery of those infrastructure and service initiatives. Building capacity. So this is about making sure that we in the EPA and our partners and stakeholders can do what we're setting out to do to the best of our ability. So we have a number of ways that we're looking at doing this. The strategy and innovation team are looking at delivering some training modules on regulatory reform and introductions to the waste sector, so that if you're new to the waste sector or if there's a change coming to the waste sector, that we can get you up to speed as quickly as possible, and then you can continue on and do your job really well. And the business recycling team, they have been working with the bin trim assessors. These are the people that actually go out into small and medium businesses and do that assessment process. And they've been getting training in behaviour change and education so that they can go out into those businesses and really affect change in the waste and resource recovery space. So those assessors are actually critical to the delivery of the bin trim program. And I understand that the people that have gone along to that training have really got a lot out of it so far. Promoting excellence. So at the EPA we have a responsibility and an opportunity to promote excellence wherever it's happening. So there's great examples already happening around the state of people doing great things in their local communities or on particular topic areas. So where that's happening, we want to magnify that and share those lessons learnt. So the regional delivery team has committed to developing some guidance material on designing, delivering and evaluating behaviour change projects. So if you're new to the sector or you're less familiar with one area of that process, again, we can have those resources there for people to refer to when and if they need, and we can also showcase great examples that are already happening. And the recycling infrastructure team have been working with the Industrial Ecology Network. So they're looking to develop some case studies of work that that network is doing and spread the messages among the, among the industrial sector. Providing resources and tools, this one is pretty straightforward. The strategy and innovation team have committed to supporting councils that are looking at energy from waste projects. So providing some guidance materials on how they can navigate those discussions and those conversations with their local communities. Energy from waste certainly generates a lot of discussion, and the EPA is looking to be able to support councils in working through that with their community. And the organics team, I think Danyelle mentioned the Love Food Hate Waste program, so continuing to support organisations working on that program with education and communication materials. And working with and supporting our stakeholders more broadly. So the recycling infrastructure team, who are 2 rooms down at the moment speaking, they're in the process of setting up an expert panel to provide training and advice to councils that are looking to procure recycling infrastructure. It's something that you don't do every day, and this panel will act as a resource that councils can use to make the best decisions for their local communities. And the illegal dumping team, a big part of their program is the work of the RID squads. And a big part of what the RID squads do is education as well as enforcement. So the illegal dumping team committing to work with those existing RID squads and establishing 2 new RID programs. So the strategy timeline, we have consultation open at the moment. It's open until the 29th of May. We have had a couple of workshops already on the 20th and the 30th of April, but there is still one coming up on the 14th. There is also a webinar recording, which is more information-based, and anyone that's come along today probably won't get anything extra out of that recording, but certainly the workshops are much more participatory. We definitely welcome and encourage submissions by email or by post, either from your organisation or from you as an individual. We would very much love to hear your thoughts on the strategy itself and how we can improve it. And we're looking to turn this around quite quickly, so to consolidate what we get back from those submissions, and we're hoping to release the final strategy very quickly. We do realise in an ideal world we would have had this strategy closer to the beginning of Waste Less, Recycle More, but we're here now and we want to make sure that we get it turned around quickly. And that is the end, and we have 1 minute if you have questions.